Hey y'all, what's going on? It is BarbMeetsWorld, and we are here again for House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 2, entitled Rhaenyra the Cruel. Let's get into it, y'all. Hey y'all, what is going on? Honey, what is going on? What is going on with y'all? I'm so happy to be here recapping and reviewing this episode for y'all because a lot happened. Not surprised by that at all, but we got to unpack it. We got to unpack it. But before we get into all that, y'all, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button for me? Hit that like button for me. It helps my channel in terms of the algorithm. It helps me attract new subscribers such as yourself. And if you are not a subscriber yet, hit that subscription button as well. Hit that notification button so you know every single time I make an upload or I'm live or whatever. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Also, I want to hear your thoughts, comments, opinions about the episode and my commentary in the comments section below as well. And if you're not too shy, go ahead and share me with your folks, okay? Like, share me with all your people. I appreciate it. Please and thank you. So now that we got that out the way, y'all, let's dive into this episode because a lot happened, honey. A lot happened. So we know how episode 1 ended, y'all. We know how episode 1 ended. And of course, we're going to roll right along with the following events that followed, what went down. And we knew that everything that went down wasn't going to be kept a secret for long. I mean, obviously. So we see the guards are rounding up everybody in the Red Keep in hopes of apprehending Jaharis's unalivers. We'll say that. And y'all, if you're not used to censoring content creators censoring language, we do that over here because we're not trying to get flagged. YouTube does not take too kindly to certain words and phrases and stuff like that. So I just try to censor myself the best I can so that I don't get flagged. Okay. Yeah. So there's that. But they're trying to apprehend his unalivers before they can escape the city, of course, right? Because not only did they behead him, they took his head with blood took his head with him. Sorry to get all graphic, but yeah, that's what had happened. I felt really bad. Mm, 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 mm. I accidentally muted myself. Sorry, y'all. Nonetheless, I felt really bad. But we see from the nursery a maid carrying the blood-soaked towel. And Aegon, he's literally seen destroying, the model of old Valyria or whatever that was that Viserys had last season. Yeah. So Aegon decided to take his frustrations out on said model. Yeah. So he's just swinging and destroying it. And I was just like, seriously? But I was like, okay, let me unpack this a little bit further. So he's yelling, I'm the king, I declare war. They try to calm him. And I feel like that was symbolism. And that was symbolic of the fact that their house is going to be in utter disarray after this civil war. Their lineage is being threatened and everything like that. So, and I don't think that they're going to be able to fully ever really come back from this. Y'all, again, I did not read the books, but I am going to read the books. So, but from what I've ever gathered, obviously, in seeing Game of Thrones, we do see that their house is going to be affected by this. We know that's going to happen. So I feel like that was symbolic of the fact that he's destroying this, which is what's also happening to his house right now. So anyway, what happened after that? So After that, we also see Aemon. Aemon was the one that was supposed to get got, but that didn't happen. And he's looking around his room. He finds the secret door that Blood and Cheese used, that one of Maegor's secret passages or whatever. He peeps that, which I'm just like, what type of teenager, young adult are you? Like, you didn't even know that your house had, like, I would have found that out years ago, but that's just me. And he also picks up a coin, which I don't have the photo of that. I just deleted it. Gosh, I just deleted it. But Aemon is already missing one eye. He wears a patch over one eye, and then he holds up the coin in this eye, which I feel like that was also symbolic of the fact that back then, how they used to put the coins on the corpses and stuff like that, on the bodies and stuff. Yeah. As they journey into the afterlife, I feel like that was kind of like an ode to that. I don't know if that was like foreshadow. I don't know. But I pointed that out as well. Allison, she's in a wreck at this point, y'all. She's pretty much in a wreck. And that is because she is feeling a little guilty. She is blaming herself for what has happened, and she even reveals to her father, Otto, that she's being punished for she has sinned. And it's just like, I don't even really think he honed in on that. He's trying to like kind of calm her, but we know he's not really. He doesn't really have her best interest, I feel like, at heart. I don't think he ever really did. She was kind of like a chess piece to him, if you ask me. So yeah, there's that. She even speaks on, once again, her sins. And I feel like her sins have been attempting to consume her since last week. We saw, she keeps having this flood of emotions that makes her feel like, okay, I can't keep continuing to do this. She's literally physically feeling the guilt, but she keeps going and going. It's like she just keeps going after the thing that she says she doesn't want to take part in again. She's been playing all of these backhanded like tactic games along with her dad, I feel like, and she's just really starting to feel the weight of it. And she chose that life, so I don't feel bad. Moving on. Aegon, he at the small council meeting, obviously we have to have a meeting after what just went down, like duh. Aegon speaks of his fears that everyone will see him as weak. This happened literally in the castle. This happened when everybody was supposed to be on their P's and Q's, not P's and Q's. They were supposed to be on it. They're supposed to be on watch. They're supposed to be on guard, and that did not happen. That did not happen. So I'm just like, honestly though, if we're gonna be 100% frank, I feel like all of them been known that he's weak. And everybody at the small council at least. But I'm just going to assume that they didn't want the rest of the population to know that he was also weak, at least not this soon. That's what I took from it, right? And I feel like it should also come at no surprise at this point that a decision that he makes later on in the episode, he obviously wants to hit this more aggressively. He's out for blood, not for ink, which is something I said later on. And he's blaming Rhaenyra, obviously, but a couple of them say like, okay, but maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe it's not Rhaenyra. So everybody kind of is saying what they think, how they feel about the situation, and it's conflicting with the next person. So now it has him even like questioning everybody's loyalties and stuff, which, I mean, I would be looking at everybody sideways too, because I don't feel like a lot of this stuff is being done by strangers. It's being done by the other half of your family. Just saying. Just saying. But while he's taking out his frustrations, Loras walks in and he tells them that they've apprehended someone, although they don't know who this person is. They've apprehended someone. They caught him trying to flee the city, again, with the head in tow, in one of his saddlebags, to be more specific. And Aegon's all like, I'm going to unalive him myself. And I'm just like, right, sure you are. So he's ready to go after the enemy. They know their enemy. And if it wasn't for Allison, Aegon even says it in this scene, if it wasn't for Allison sparing her being Rhaenyra back then, this wouldn't have occurred now. So there's a lot of shifting the blame in this episode, y'all, that I kind of just want to jump in the TV and tell everybody when they were doing that, like, okay, baby, you have it all wrong. It didn't even go down like that. So you need to look within. A lot of people that were blaming other people in this episode need to look within, if you ask me. Just saying. Moving on. Otto, his wise plan right now, he jinxes this genius plan. And it is that they're going to garner the people's support and sympathy while creating a funeral procession that is going to go down the roads of King's Landing. Ooh, sorry, y'all. Sorry, I deleted something in my notes. My bad. Anyway, yeah, his great plan is to, against Rhaenyra, do this funeral procession through the streets of King's Landing so the small folk can see Rhaenyra's cruelty for themselves, aka like he's going to have the body, he's going to reattach the head, have the body there, and to put a little extra razzle dazzle on it, why don't Helaena and Alicent also follow in the funeral procession? But we're going to spare the king. We're going to spare him. We're not even going to think about the fact that Helaena was, not only is she the mother, she's the mother, but she was literally there when this went down. She was the only other person there when it went down. And I'm just thinking, poor her, because who is advocating for her in all this? Nobody, not even her own mother, y'all. I just felt so freaking bad. And actually, I'll save that. I'll save that for a second. The coronation was a sham. And they seen Rhaenys flee on Dragonbat. So again, they already know that he's weak. But in Otto's mind, this is a chance for them to show. It's a chance for them to show that Rhaenyra, I don't know why I'm having such issues saying these names right now, to show Rhaenyra that she is a savage, that she's desperate to get at the throne. And this is regardless of whether or not she really played a part in this, but they're basically just going to use this as a leg up on her. And honestly, the greens are up. The greens are way up at the beginning of this. I will say they are way up right now, and I don't really know how else they would have. I don't really know how else the Blacks would have spun it, honestly, because everybody's going to think that it was her. Like, I feel like that's the only logical thought. Like, I can't even fault the people that were looking at her kind of crazy, thinking like, oh well, because your son, like, there's been so much back and forth that the ships fell this way because that's kind of where everyone set the stage for the ships to fall in previous episodes. Just saying. So again, got this great idea. Now, Alicent, she goes in to tell Helaena what's up, and Helaena is completely traumatized. Again, no one's checking on her. No one's making sure she's good in all this. She's completely traumatized. And I felt really bad. She's like, absolutely not. Like, she don't want to do that. Obviously, Alicent doesn't really want to do it either. But again, my nose ring is driving me crazy. I'm sorry, y'all. Alicent really doesn't want to do it either. But obviously, she's been listening to her father this whole time. So she's only going to listen to him once again in this moment, I feel like, and go along with it, even though I think I feel like that was low. I just felt like that was low. I didn't feel like they needed to really do that, although there were a lot of houses that were still undecided at this time. I feel like they could have did it a different way without trying to pull on people's heartstrings and literally frame um Rhaenyra at this time. I think it's crazy. And this is also the time where we see Alicent again failing as a mother, in my opinion. She fails to comfort her daughter while she's in the midst of this whole ordeal. She's literally visibly traumatized. And she even fails to comfort another child or two later on in the episode. She does really well at championing for her children, but she doesn't really fulfill the entire maternal role, in my opinion. She doesn't really tend to their needs. Just saying. But then again, look at who her father is. Someone who has literally, once again, used her as a pawn for the greater part of her life. So really, could you really expect that from her? And I think her mother passed away at a young age too. So I don't even think she had that maternal figure. So maybe she was just doomed in this regard, if you ask me. But anyway, moving on. So they embark on this funeral procession. It's super, super gray. It looks, there's no sun in sight. It's very grim, very somber, all the things. And if I'm being honest, it really did remind me of Cersei's Walk of Shame in the Game of Thrones. It was definitely giving that. I know a couple of you guys probably picked up on that as well. And meanwhile, Loras takes it upon himself to visit Blood, who is down in the dungeons or whatever. And Blood, he had absolutely zero issues with admitting what all happened, who hired him. And, he was also accompanied by a rat catcher, he says. They don't spare him, though. They do not spare him. Aegon eventually comes in and cracks his, and it's lights out for him. But, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. It is what it is. All is fair in the Game of Thrones, right? Anyway, so while journeying down the roads of King's Landing, whoever it was literally blaming Rhaenyra, yelling it to the crowd that she's responsible for the unaliving. The carriage then hits a pothole, y'all. The carriage literally hits a pothole. And all I can think about is, well, goddamn, Royal Bank, where does all of the tax dollars go? Because really, of all times, just kidding. But I'm not. But I am, but I'm not. But I really did feel bad for Helaena. She was going through it during this scene. And I feel like, again, she's being constantly overlooked. And no one, not even for a split second, thought to spare her feelings or at least check on her and see all of what she is going through. Nobody. I think that's gross. And the pageantry behind the unaliving of the child was all done for political gain. Otto's a great politician, although he might not be trying to go for the jugular right off the bat. He is a great politician. I will give him that. He be doing his political thing, y'all. He be doing his political thing. Over at Dragonstone, however, Rhaenyra finally gets news of what all happened, and she was caught completely off guard by the news itself, and that she's now being looked at as the culprit, as the one that ordered the hit. So she's got a lot of damage control to do. She's questioning, trying to figure out what the next move is. Should I send a Raven? Should I not? And all the while, Rhaenys is sitting there, and a light bulb kind of goes off in her head when she looks over at Daemon and sees him looking with his shifty eyes, which tells her everything she needs to know about what his part in this whole thing was. She already knows what's up. Rhaenyra, on the other hand, she didn't pick up on it right away. But later on, directly following that scene, she does confront him. He tries to act like it was done based on the fact that, you know, she was seeking vengeance for her son. He doesn't, however, tell her who he told Blood and Cheese to go after should they not find Aemon. I think that's a bit that we saw that we heard about in the books, but in this case, it cut out last week on that part. I even made mention of it in my live from last week that we didn't quite hear who he said go after, but obviously we could deduce it now, being as though someone is no longer amongst the living on here, right? Did anything else significant happen during this? In this moment, she finally sees him for who he is. And we're literally seeing the dissolution of their marriage play out right before our eyes. They're not really doing too great. I don't think that they were ever destined for greatness. I think they were always doomed. And that's because Daemon, he's still very much full of resentment. And I feel like he resents Rhaenyra just as he resented her father. Obviously, there's a vendetta he had against his brother. And I feel like that was passed on to Rhaenyra because she was the one that her father named as his heir, right? Which, again, Daemon is somebody who thinks that he is the rightful heir of the throne. He thinks that that is his calling in life. And anybody who stands in the way of that is on his list, if you ask me. So, again, I feel like they were always doomed in that regard. She calls him pathetic. He storms out to do normally what he does, to go after and execute his own plan, which he's been working on his own time this whole time. He's just been doing it under the guise of, oh, I'm just fulfilling what my wife wants me to do or say or whatever. He's been trying to pitch it like that, but really it's been to fulfill his own agenda, and he wants to see himself up on the Iron Throne, period. And I feel like he'll cut through and undermine whoever he needs to do to get there, his wife included. Just saying. Just saying. Clearly he don't give up about his children because he walked right past Baela. Like, come on now. Walk right past Baela, who is coming to speak to Rhaenyra upon her request. Rhaenyra tells her to take Moondancer, which is her dragon, which is a much smaller dragon from what I have been what I've gathered. Much smaller dragon. She wants her to go hold watch on King's Landing, but stay far enough back to where they don't get you with the scorpions, you know. She's a sharp girl, I'm sure. She's gonna be good. So she sends her off to do that. And she's like, you know, what about my dad though, whatever. And Rhaenyra tells her, like, he's got his own stuff. We ain't worried about him or whatever. And that tells Baela, I'm sure, everything she needed to know. We also get a small exchange between Alicent and Sir Criston. So we can tell that they're both very much still in deep dislike of oneself, undeniably, as well as being sexually frustrated, I'm sure. I was trying to figure out if Alicent's going underwater during this scene in the bath was like supposed to be some type of symbolism as well, like for was that supposed to exemplify how she's drowning in her own life right now? Or I don't know, maybe I'm putting 20 on 10, but I feel like you kind of have to with these episodes because you just never quite know what they're trying to get after, you know? So again, I'm not really sure there, but maybe you guys can fill me in the comments below. Right? Moving on. Speaking of Sir Criston, oh my gosh, that just got this next scene really irritated me because instead of again looking within, we're gonna go ahead and shift the blame. We're gonna go ahead and take to gaslighting and manipulating the next person into doing what we want them to do, which in this case was unfortunately Sir Arik Cargo. the twins. We know one twin is over there with Rhaenyra, and the other twin is still over here, a part of the Kingsguard. So he's sitting there eating, but his cloak, the white cloak, is muddy on the back because the funeral procession, as he said. So, what's his face? Sir Christian comes up behind him, bucking up his chest, talk about you need to go change your, what's up with this? We take pride in our appearance. You need to go change that right now. Not after you eat ASAP, no Rocky. Excuse me, sir? Excuse me? You could back up about my face is what I would have said, but this ain't about me, so I'm gonna stick to what happened in the episode. So Sir Ark is kind of like, he peeps the type of time he's on or whatever, so he's like, you know what, okay, I'm gonna go. And instead of just allowing him to go at this point, he's gonna take it an inch further, a mile further, if you ask me, a football field or two, if you ask me, further. And he's like, so where were you when, that all happened or whatever? When Jaharis was unalive. Where were you? Huh? And I'd be like, where you? We know where you were. And I feel like that's the bigger issue here, is that you feel so guilty because it happened on your watch, And some stuff gets slammed. They're going back and forth. Sir Christian takes to going down this rabbit hole of gaslighting. And again, some stuff gets slammed around. That's when everybody's like, yep, that's my cue to go. I'm packing up on out of here. So some other people that were around, they get up and leave. I was like, I would have been the same way. And I kid you not, y'all, this really tasks this man with going to Dragonstone and unaliving Rhaenyra. And he's tasking him specifically with this because, again, his brother, his identical twin is over there, a part of the Queen's Guard. So he is like, oh, this is the best plan ever because you will be able to slip in undetected because you could just act like your twin who's already supposed to be there. Right. This completely exemplifies his willingness to weaponize his own hypocrisy in order to absolve himself of like any wrongdoing in the situation, y'all. Like, I cannot make this up. I cannot make this up. But if I already was over him last season, last week, whatever, I am sure over him this week. I am so over him. Like, get him off my screen. Like, can't do it, won't do it. Moving along. Going back to Dragonstone, we see Baela, Jacaerys, and they're comparing their daddy issues, basically. We know that Jace, he had, was it Rhaenyra? Yeah. Which is her uncle. And I feel like she even said that her word choice, she said my uncle instead of his dad. Her word choice told us everything we need to know about, do these kids really know about the true family tree? Do they know who their real biological mommy and daddy is and stuff and all that? They do. The kids is not stupid. They know who. They know what type of time Rhaenyra used to be on. They know what type of time they know what type of time everybody was on. Okay, they know what type of time their uncle was on. So they're talking. They just had a small exchange about their dads and different stuff. Nothing really too crazy. We know that they're both betrothed to one another, so wasn't really much with that. Fast forward, we finally get a scene with Aemon. He's visiting his favorite sex worker down at the brothel. And she's a woman of a particular age. That's the first thing I noticed. And I thought that was kind of odd at first. But then I had to think back to what I've been talking about this whole time, the mommy issues of it all. I feel like the comfort he was seeking from this woman who apparently took his V card, apparently. I gathered that tidbit too. I feel like he looks to her as a source of comfort because he does not receive that source of comfort from his own mother. Okay. And even in this moment, he's not even seeking her for sex as much as he's seeking to like just vent to her about stuff, because we learned some different things in this conversation. We learned that he is feeling regretful about unaliving Luke, one. And I think, again, I think he has a bit of humanity about him, which is kind of the opposite of any other Targaryen, I should say. And not even humanity, but just some type of, he has the ability to look within, and I feel like that's something that's absent with a lot of them super fair-haired individuals on this show. They have a lot of issues looking and seeing where they could have did things differently, or the hand that they played in what's going on in their lives. But we see a different side, I guess, of him during the scene a little bit. So that leads me to ask you guys, do you guys feel bad for Aemon, or do y'all see him as a villain, like, still, or whatever? I'm curious to know. And also in this episode, something that I found interesting is that we got to see a bit more into the lives of a couple of the small folk. For instance, Hugh, the blacksmith that we were not introduced to, but that we saw last week on, he was asking for money for more resources and stuff to Aegon. We saw him there last week, and then we also see him at home this week, where we find out he has a sick daughter and a wife who is complaining, rightfully so, that the money that was promised to them, has still not come through yet. And I feel like we already said last week, we're never going to be introduced to a character that really doesn't play a part, at least to some degree. So I feel like we're being introduced and we're finding out more about what's going on in his life, because it's going to play a part later on and perhaps cause him to take up allegiance with Rhaenyra instead. Maybe, I don't know. Something's going to come of it, though. Something's going to come of it. So we also see Alan. We saw him last week. He's the sailor that rescued the sea snake, Lord Corlys or whatever. And he greets his brother during this episode. His brother's name is Adam, and he's a shipwright. And they discuss the war. And Adam is actually the one that mentions Lord Corlys and how he owes you / he owes us. So again, I'm not really able to pinpoint all of what these pieces mean, but I know they mean something, y'all. They have to. So we see some pillow talking between Lord Corlys as well and Rhaenys. They're kind of talking about Daemon and what his ambitions are. They also mention how he left Dragonstone at this point. Like I said, he took off on his dragon. He was at it at Caraxes, I think is his dragon. And he's trying to capture the stronghold of Harrenhal, apparently. That's what's on his agenda. Like the video, y'all, if you have not. Thank you. On Dragonstone, Rhaenyra meets with Mysaria, who was the ex-lover of her husband, Daemon. She was being held by Rhaenyra at this point, and I think that they both kind of found out that they have been wronged in some way, abandoned in some way by Daemon. So I feel like that was something they were able to bond over. And Massaria even took it a step further by mentioning that all the powerful men in the Seven Kingdoms have never seen her as a person. And I feel like that's something that resonated with Rhaenyra, because I feel like she's never been able to be independent, make her own decisions, and be seen as a force to be reckoned with amongst all these men at the small council and whatever. So I feel like that was something that they could kind of empathize with one another on, and I feel like that led her into releasing Massaria, um, and giving her freedom back, which is what she was actually promised to by Daemon. So she's allowed to go on and do what she wants to and all of that, but that's not the last time in this episode we're going to see her. So we'll get back to that in just a moment. Adam got another little snippet with him as well. He spots Sea Smoke, which is the dragon who was ridden by Rhaenyra. Brought up Rhaenyra again. Something tells me he is going to make an appearance, and it's not because he's not unalived, y'all. He is very much alive. He is just departed. So I feel like he's going to make a serious return, especially because that dragon was super active. We know what's a brewing. I feel like he's going to come back. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm marking it. I'm marking it right here and right now. Back over at King's Landing, we meet another one of the small folk. This is the last person we met. His name apparently was Ulf, although I'm not sure if that was said in the episode. I did some research. I found out his name is Ulf. And we were able to follow him for a second, and we see this gruesome scene of all these hanging individuals, and come to find out these individuals are all the rat catchers of the city. They were ordered to be hanged by Aegon. By Aegon. And yes, Cheese is amongst them. We do see that Cheese unfortunately met his demise as well. But what's even more cruel is the fact that other innocent individuals were unalived because Aegon was on such a warpath that he didn't even think like, oh, this might actually do more harm than good. Like, I don't know what in his mind made him think like that was, because at the end of the day, yes, although these individuals are rat catchers, which indicates that they're of a lower class, of course, one of the lowest, I'm assuming, that doesn't mean that they're not still people. That doesn't mean that they don't have feelings, families, people that care about them. So for you to just say round them all up and do what you got to do, that tells me that you are putting your feelings and your emotions in front of other people's, and I don't think that that's fair. I don't care what type of monarchy, I don't care what type of ruler you want to be, that is up, in my opinion. I don't care. That's up. Inside the Red Keep, after catching wind of this, Otto goes storming in to go off on his grandson like I would have done, and Sir Kristen, of course, is right there too. And he starts berating him about the mass execution, and he's going off, and he brings up the point I just brought up, which is like, you could potentially have squandered all of the goodwill that we, created at Jaehaerys's funeral procession. Like, what's not clicking? Anyway, so I want to say, even at one point, Sir Kristen even jumped in talking about that's still your king, my lord, or whatever. He comes to Aegon's defense, and I was like, this is at this point, and it was a family matter. I don't give a king or not. It's your granddaddy talking now. And Otto had to let him know that. But he also let him know how he really feels and how he thinks that he knows that Viserys never really named him. as his successor. He lets Aegon know this, which of course pissed off Aegon enough to the point that before Otto was able to leave, he tells them that he's gonna need that badge on his chest. And Otto was like, I know you're not about to do what I think you're about to do. And he's like, oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Sir Kristen's gonna be my new hand now. And I feel like Otto bringing that up did some good and bad, because it did good because it's like clearly somebody need to show your little self, but at the same time it did bad because it shows that we know that Otto was loyal to Viserys, who was loyal to Rhaenyra. So Aegon probably took that as a slight to him, and that maybe, again, going back to what was brought up in the beginning of the episode, how loyalty is now being brought into question, this is probably the straw that obviously broke the camel's back as far as how Aegon views his grandfather being the hand. We also saw Lord Loras or whatever sprinkling those seeds last week in Aegon's head. So this is only a matter of time, if you ask me. And unfortunately, this is his second time being fired. I wouldn't show my face around there ever again. But that's just me. That's just me, y'all. What else? Going back to Mysaria, like I said before, she was allowed to leave. She's about to catch a boat to Mire. But before she can do that, she's walking down to board the boat, and she sees Sir Arik, not Eric, Arik. Why their parents would name them that, I don't know. Arik with an A. She sees that the one that's on the King's Guard, the one from King's Landing. How he got there so fast, y'all, I have no idea. Like, I'm sorry, but I feel like he got there fast AF. Did he not? He got there super fast. You know, it'd be taking them 3 sheep and a mule to get there. It'd be taking them 10 fortnights to get there. It'd be taking them, they'd be on King's Road, whatever. They'd be on that path to righteousness forever. But he got his ass there fast as fuck. And I thought that was crazy. Just need to throw that out there. I'm just saying. But so there. So she sees him and she's like, well, I seen Eric in there next to Rhaenyra. So how can he be down here if he's down here? Oh, bad. I already know what's about to pop off. And she pauses for a minute. She sees him walking up there. She pauses for a minute. And of course, she must have tipped off who may be concerned, because we see Arik keeps moving through the castle for a bit. He was able to get in the castle because the 2 guards at the door were like, oh, we thought she was inside. He's like, no, gotta, walk the grounds, make sure, they're not creeping up on us, gonna ambush us. And they're like, oh yeah, makes sense. Creak, opens door, waltzes right on in. And this, I felt really bad for him as well, this episode. I felt bad for both of them, because that is a straight up unaliving mission, and to then have to go after your sibling, your twin, like that's deep. That's deep. And I knew it was going to be an ugly situation. No matter the outcome, it was going to be ugly and gruesome regardless. So he's moving out of the castle. He's timing the movement of the guards. He's able to, maneuver his way on up to her chambers. Both of them were even walking around for a minute, both the twins. And of course, Eric had no idea, but I'm just saying that. There's a member of the Queen's Guard stationed at Rhaenyra's door, of course, and his name is Sir Laurent Marbrand. Yeah. He tells him that he'll take over. He goes away. Sir Arik walks right in, and before he can make his move, his twin walks in, cuts him right off. They get to battling. Rhaenyra's over there like, what the, who, huh? Sir Arik. It's like, y'all ever seen that, y'all know that gif or whatever of Spider-Man, and it's just like total mind fuck, y'all. They get to fight, and no, again, Rhaenyra, she's standing back. She tells the chambermaid to go get Sir Marbrand or whatever, the one that was just told he could go away. He comes back in. He ain't got no armor, no nothing. He came running in. He was about to go to bed or something, obviously. He's like, he's mine too. He's able to kind of rescue her enough though. And unfortunately, y'all, this was apparently went on for a lot longer in the books. I'm glad it honestly didn't go on that long because I really felt bad. I really did. And we've seen brother fighting scenes. You know, if y'all did not know, my favorite character from Game of Thrones is the Hound. I go up for him, his brother, the Mountain, though. The Cleanes, they've had their own fights and stuff like that, but I just felt so bad in this instance, and that's actually, I feel like, really telling because we didn't really get to see too much about these characters, but just based on the sheer fact that they are identical twins, that he was just doing his job and he was manipulated into fulfilling this dummy mission, just made me feel so bad. But anyway, all is fair in Game of Thrones, right? I guess. Anyway, unfortunately, again, y'all, Sir Arik, he successfully unalives his brother, and he only does so just before falling on his own sword. So both of them are no longer here. Yeah. That's crazy. That's not the final scene, though. Meanwhile, back at the Red Keep, Otto, he's angrily informing his daughter about his loss of title. I want to say he even told her about what just went down because back when he was telling his grandson off and stuff like that before he was demoted or exiled, so to speak, they told him about the dummy mission. And that's what actually enraged him on another level when he really started to go in. Then he tells her all this, and the only thing he tells her that he needs to leave, obviously he's been fired twice, but the only thing that Allison's able to say about Sir Kristen, however, is that, you know, at least he's loyal. I'm like, I guess that's true, because we know he's definitely not going to. I feel like he also goes so hard on this side because it's Rhaenyra, because he was ready to bet it all on Black. He was ready to ride off in the sunset with her, if you ask me, last season. So it's a personal mission for him, if you ask me. And then we get another display of how piss poor of a mother Allison is in the end. She stumbles upon Aegon crying, his eyes out. He is bawling, which is actually where this picture is taken from, back here on the left-hand side of him with his hand, his head in his hand, straight up bawling. And instead of comforting him, she just continues about her way and continues to her quarters, and she finds Sir Christian waiting for her. And after giving him a couple slaps, because we got to act like we really hate each other versus the fact that we both know that we really want to screw the other person's brains out. They begin to, she takes her frustrations out on him for a moment. Then he throws her against the wall and gives her what they both want. And that is how the episode ends, y'all. That's how the episode ends. It's a really good episode. I really enjoyed it. I had to watch it multiple times, of course. But I'm loving it. I hope you guys are loving it too. I hope you also are loving my commentary. And I cannot wait to see what else is in store this upcoming Sunday, y'all. This was my recap and review for the House of the Dragon episode 2, or season 2, episode 2. Woo! Season 2, episode 2, y'all. We still are in the beginning of the season. There's still a lot more to unfold, I am sure. I will be diligently reading the books in the meantime as we wait for episode 3. But Until then, y'all, drop down in them comments. Let me know what you think. Do not forget to like the video. I'm actually, before we roll up on out of here, I'm actually going to play my like the video and then my outro, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.